Alright guys, let's talk lean bulking. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time because there's almost a lot of people that think of transformations the entire way wrong. And I'm going to make sure I help you guys really cut through the noise on the internet and show you exactly what you need to do if you want to build good muscle and stay lean the entire way, and concept of lean bulking. I'll be diving into who should do it, who shouldn't do it, how many calories to eat, how fast to gain, and how to do that without becoming all puffy and feeling miserable and bloated and gassy and not where you want to be. I think there's a whole concept of on the internet where people build these amazing bodies and they destroy it with bulking phases, which is not the right narrative, right? I'm always a believer where there's no point in building something that's not built to last. And as much as we don't want to be living in fairyland thinking we're going to stay lean year round, there's almost no reason to pack a lot of muscle, a lot of size to then not look good, right? So I'm going to be making sure we go into the whole concept because lean bulking is simple in theory, but it's hard to do in practice. Now, first things first, you want to look at it like this. Your goal is to eat a slightly above maintenance calories, to train hard, to gain muscle slowly, and to minimize fat gain. And you're not trying to gain it 10 kilograms in 3 months, because if you really look at it, the average trainee, that's natural, that's not assisted. Muscle gain is hard and it's painfully slow, right? But it's so rewarding because if you'd be lucky to gain a stone of muscle a year, right? Bodybuilders year round, they train their ass off, they go sacrifice their entire life to build muscle, and they may be lucky to gain 1-2 pounds of muscle a year. The beginners are gain quick, intermediate a lot less. When you go into years and years, you're going to be gaining at a very slow rate. So you want to really realize that your goal is to look at quality size, not just packing on weight for the sake of packing on weight. But the problem is that most guys hear bulk and think, right, cool, now this is a free for all. I'm going to gain a lot of muscle as quick as I can. And I'm going to try just eating like under supervised teenager, which is not the right way to do it. We're adults here, you're not trying to go on an unsupervised self-sabotage and binge cycle. That's not productive for anybody. Diving into everything, who should do it versus who shouldn't do it. You're a man that's roughly under 15% body fat, so you've got some outline of the abs, they're visible, your jawline's still there, you don't feel soft all over, you've got some good muscle definition, and you're okay gaining some weight. You're in a good position to lean bulk. However, if you're over 15 to 18% body fat, you've got a little bit of a stun belly, don't want to get uncomfortable, you've not really got much real definition, like you've not got veins in certain parts of your back and your biceps, you've not got things pop out as much, t-shirt still feels fairly not where it needs to be, then I would not be bulking. Like, I speak to guys a lot of times, like, oh yeah, I want to gain weight. I'm like, please, don't gain weight. Like, just don't. You'll always be in a better position to lean down first to give yourself more runway, right? This is what it's all about. You want to give yourself the best chance of building the most amount of muscle. Because when you do it, you want to give yourself a good period, like 6 months minimum, to make it effective. And you're only one muscle building phase away from completely changing your entire physique. But what happens is if you do it from a place you're not where you need to be, then you'll often find you'll almost do it for a month max and you'll go back to a dieting phase. You'll start yo-yoing. Plus your body won't respond as much. For most guys, it makes more sense to start with a fat loss phase before they go into a building phase. Why? Because if you've got a decent amount of body fat and you add a surplus on top, you're layering on more weight. You're gonna get heavier, things aren't gonna look as good. And yes, you can build muscle when you've got more body fat, but visually you won't see it. So it'll be less worth it. And when you diet, you've got such a longer period to go to get you to where you want to be. You won't really like what you see, mentally be hard to stick to, and it just isn't right? You're gonna struggle to stick to the process. So the rule of thumb, if you're lean, go into a lean bulking phase, overweight, and you've got some fat to lose, tidy up, spend some more time building muscle later. Now, let's clear this up as well in terms of how we can do it when it comes to lean bulking. The goal is to maximize muscle gain and keep the surplus really, really small. Roughly 250, 350 calories in the surplus is perfect, because if you do a little bit more than that, you're gonna start to gain some body fat. Food quality should always be mostly natural foods, whole foods, because your performance is gonna dictate everything in this phase. If you go into a growth phase and you just start slapping down donuts, hit your protein target, and your quality of diet is junk, what will happen is you'll actually gain weight, but you'll see no strength gains in the gym, which means no new muscle mass is being invented, right? So where a lot of times if your performance dips, then you will not build muscle. And that's why quality of food will dictate quality of training, which will dictate quality of physique. Without that, the piece of the jigsaw just don't align. If you do that, you'll feel pretty good energy, you're staying lean, you're staying composed, and you'll find the condition you'll get at the end of it will be far more worth it. However, if you do a dirty bulk, you'll basically have the whole gain as much weight as you can at all costs, which is what most guys do, because you just want to get huge and fill out and get to a certain kilo number. They might have like a 500 calorie surplus, 800 calorie surplus, some guys maybe have 1,000 calorie surplus trying to gain a kilo a week. And then the food quality for these guys will typically be poor. It'll be anything they can can eat, which isn't good. We all know this by now. And you feel bloated, sluggish, and not what you want to be. So it's not the ideal. Always lean bulking. You'll find that long term your progress will start to compound much quicker. Now, yes, you'll gain more muscle on a dirty bulk quicker because you're gaining faster. But when you diet, you'll have a lot more to go. So actually, it'll offset the gains you could have got medium term and long term, because you'd have to go for a longer period of dieting. I remember back in university, I was no name calling him. The guy in the gym, he was bulking and bulking and bulking. He had to spend 2 years dieting, right? And if he just got lean first, he wouldn't have to do a 2-year diet to get to where he wanted to be. And as much as he's done that, great, he wanted to, but the juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point, because you'll have to cycle through fat loss for a longer period of time. So you'll actually, down the line, it will impair how much muscle building you can actually do. Now with that, I'm always going to be saying lean bulking is always better, because it helps you make sure you actually look good year round, and the physique you create is normalized. Person A may do a dirty bulk, gain weight faster, gain muscle quicker, and have to do a cut aggressively for a very long time. Person B, they do it slowly, they do it gradually, and they don't have to do a big cut. They can do a small little tidy up, and they stay looking good year round. So they don't have to get a new wardrobe in a few weeks time, which is also expensive. So there's hidden costs when it comes to physique change, funnily enough. So guy A is always cycling between on and off. They bulk, hate how he looks, starts to prep a crash diet, lose muscle, repeat, staying in the same place. Person B will keep ticking along in the surplus, gaining good muscle, getting good size, and he barely needs long cuts. And the end result is the consistent but boring and slow approach will always win the race, because that guy's going to be winning it, and it's the whole thing of go slow to grow. Slow is smooth, is smooth is fast. Now, if you dive into then how many calories you should be eating, this is probably the biggest question. A lot of guys overconsume. They eat way too many calories than they actually need. And here's the honest answer. There's no magic calculator out there that knows your body properly, but we can get close enough and then adjust directly. So step one is finding your maintenance calories. Roughly, you can do that. Take your body weight in pounds and times by 14 to 15. That's going to give you a rough calorie guidelines. If you stick within that, for let's say 2 weeks or so, and you find your body it's maintaining. Normally, sometimes you'll drop a little bit, but you look for that stability point. Hence why I say 2 weeks to give yourself a good enough time with enough data. Weigh yourself daily, and you'll find eventually the first few days you may drop, you may gain, but then it'll stabilize. And if it stabilizes, you'll find your maintenance. If it keeps dropping past the 2 weeks part, you're like, cool, we found we're actually dropping now, and we're in a deficit or in a surplus. In that case, you can adjust, and then you want to find your real maintenance to start off with, because this is where you look at input and output analysis. Step 2 is then to add a small surplus. I'd probably add about 250, 350 calories. Go lower if you gain fat quick. Go higher if you have more potential and more runway because you're much leaner. This isn't supposed to be feeling like a food coma. And I think if you can apply the dietary mindset in a muscle building phase, you will get the physique you're after. If you look at it, right, I'm actually going to have some constraints with how much you can eat, and I can have some discipline, you will actually get to your body much easier as well. You want to be satiated, energized, ideally feel some hunger. The thing that people don't realize is when you lose your hunger, you lose your ability to actually digest food because of how your body will respond. But 2, you can't stuff further and further calories if your hunger's gone. The moment your hunger's shot, that's where it gets a little bit tricky because you're force feeding it. It's not the ideal. So I'd actually say, like, for most guys, you should feel hungry. It's a good little thing to have. You're not going to feel starving, you're not going to feel hungry, but you should be able to eat a little bit more, but you still don't. Then diving into how much weight you should be gaining, which is where progress is usually made or broken. If your scale's finding up you're overeating, it's quite simple. Good targets for most guys is usually 0.25 to 0.5% of the body weight gain per week. So let's say you're 80 kilograms, you should be looking to gain 0.2 to 0.4 kilograms per week. And that's a really good run rate. It's slow, it's intentional, it's quite controlled, and it's enough. The best way to usually track is looking at weighing yourself daily first in the morning. We call it raw weight, which is after the toilet, before food, before water, first in the morning, same consistent times, and trying to have a variety in terms of these conditions. Track the weekly average, so you get 5 to 7 days, get the average of those, you compare week to week based on that. And if your weekly average is flying up and you hit that 0.2 to 4.5% range, you keep it going. However, it goes a bit too quick, you can reduce it, let's say an extra 100 calories, 150 calories, and you should be able to find that nice little sweet spot. This is where you get data-driven approach, as opposed to an emotional approach towards it. Hence why data is everything when it comes to physique change, because what you don't track, you can't improve, you can't master as well. Now, let's dive into what your week of eats should really look like. So you've kind of got 2 simple options here. Option 1, you go into a straight surplus through the entire week, which is every day. It's great if your routine is quite consistent and you don't really wildly change activity levels day to day. Or option 2, you can go on a surplus on your training days and go maintenance on your rest days. So on your training days, you may be in a decent surplus so you can get some extra energy to build muscle and perform. On your rest days, you're close towards maintenance because you're not moving as much. Pretty good for guys who like to eat a lot, in my opinion, and eat with their training and not overall feel too full on the rest days. They both work, to be honest, because the thing with calories is your body doesn't know you've ate X amount of calories on Monday, X amount on Tuesday. It knows your total based on the 7 days, or to be honest, not even 7 days, the last few years. So it doesn't really matter how you distribute it, it's really up to you. Now let's dive into the juicy stuff, the training. The training, you don't just go about eating, which is what a lot of guys think. They just force feed. They don't have train stimulus in there to create reasons for adaptations. Remember, stimulus, reward is everything. You put in an effort, you change a certain thing, you get a reward back. And muscle doesn't grow from there because you've got more food. Your body doesn't want to grow muscle. It wants to maintain. It's called homeostasis. So your goal is to actually create a reason to adapt. And that's the part that guys often overlook. For a lean building phase, I would recommend a minimum, personally, I like to go 4, but I like to recommend 3 to 4 days of training per week. Focus on more compound movements. You'll have a lot of calories to use, so you may as well use them and actually create more nervous system adaptation. This could be squats, presses, rows, hinging patterns like deadlifts, and your goal is to progressively overload every single time where you can. You're gonna get more reps, more weight, or more control over time, but your goal is to always progress what happens inside the gym. A lot of time, there's lots of ways to build muscle. I'm always a big fan, just get as strong as possible. Just get as strong as possible within the 6 to 10 rep range, and you should be more than enough. We can get quite analytical with it, and get your micro Israel hat out, but it's not really worthy in that opinion. I think almost keep it simple, get as strong as possible. The more weight you have in your bar, and the stronger you are, the stronger you'll look. And you ideally want to remember this, like your body composition is a reflection of your training, and there's always gonna be that. Your diet will influence your body weight, your training will influence your body composition. And a lot of guys don't give their body a reason to actually grow and allocate the extra calories towards stimulus and creating growth, which is what you need. So the training is going to be there to actually create the stimulus you need to actually build the muscle you're after. And we call this, and the reason behind this is because the body literally needs a reason to allocate extra calories to grow more muscle. And that reason is mechanical tension. And it's hard sets taken to failure quite consistently to create an adaptive reason. Now, cardio in the bulking phase, should people do cardio when they're trying to gain weight and trying to gain muscle? Short answer, you don't need tons of it, but zero movement isn't the goal. Cardio can help. It can help keep your heart rate healthy, your appetite in control, and you actually create an appetite. Gives you a bit of insurance too, so you can actually eat a little bit more food, and it maintains good condition too. The last thing you want is to be those people that can't run up a flight of stairs, that forgets to run, forgets how to run, and the moment they're put in this situation in daily life, they're just out of breath, and they have to collect it all back. So good rule of thumb, 6 to 10k steps per day, 1 to 2 low intensity cardio per week, if you enjoy it. But if not, increase your step count, make sure you are having at least some activity in there. If you're struggling to gain weight already and there's still a bit of a challenge to actually gain some pounds on the scale, probably wouldn't hammer myself with lots of cardio. Otherwise, you're just creating a bigger deficit and a bigger gap you have to fill with more food. So for guys that struggle to build muscle, struggle to gain weight, I probably wouldn't be doing too much, probably do on the lower scale. But I'd highly recommend it. I personally like to go 1 to 2 a week, keep my steps to 10k regardless year round, and it helps you massively. Now, nutrition, let's dive into the mindset of bulking, because it's not a free-for-all as much as guys see it. People often think I'm bulking, so extra food means extra gains. It does matter still. If you're consistently going over targets, you're binging over the weekends, you're having cheat meals, and using a bulk as a reason to be out of control, you cannot lean bulking. You ideally want to treat the same lean bulk as if you're dieting, because if you can apply the same mindset in a dieting phase or on an on season, you can also apply it to an off season and actually create the muscle you're after. And remember, you only want productive phase of muscle building from changing your entire physique. So you don't want to screw this up. So if you treat it the same way you were dieting, take it seriously, hit your targets, not fluff around, you will get to a better place. Most days are all going to be on plan. I recommend 90% on plan, 10% have some variation in there, go enjoy some nice like cheesecake, go enjoy some meals out. I'm not saying don't do that. I still would do it. You've earned the right to do it. Occasional flexibility is completely fine, and I will still have that, like once a week. I go for like a nice meal out, trade some meals off the plan, but try to overeat as much as you can. Regular overeating is what's going to push you far beyond your weekly total, and you'll actually gain an extra 2 kilograms a month, which is all body fat. I've had it before where you get an extra pound a week for the weekends. Then what happens is by the end of the month, I have actually gained 2 kilos extra, which I don't really say I need. So it'll actually push you away from your physique outcomes, and it's not necessarily ideal. Think about how you're going to feel the next day from eating that food. If you have a dessert, if you want it, go for it. But I like to share it if I don't really want the whole thing. Your appetite can be lower too. You just be healthy, just be conscious, just make sure you don't overeat and don't throw in the towel. A little bit of a recap. Your goal is to build muscle and still enjoy the body you're in. There's a lot of what I talk to about tactics, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But the goal is not to rent a body and do a dieting phase and then struggle to keep it and have to look back at previous pictures, how you looked. The goal is do a dieting phase and then you maintain that lean position respectfully within margin, but you still have a good body you live in. Because the moment you get away from staying lean, it becomes harder mentally, it's harder, confidence isn't there, training performance will hinder, and it's not where you want to be. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.